I'm like 99% sure that the US will be updated at some point in the future. So why did I decide to make a video on them? Well, just like with Germany, it's so that I can make a video about the same country twice. Trust me, it's coming. Someday. And also, because it's sometimes pretty overwhelming to tackle these massive focus trees with dozens of completely unique paths. So I wanted to take it easy for a bit and make a video about a simpler country once more. You know how this works by now, but I'll say to all those who are new that this video focuses on vanilla Hearts of Iron, but I'll be using these mods to enhance the visuals somewhat. Even though the Man the Guns expansion, which initially updated the American focus tree, has been integrated to the base game now, I still had every single DLC up to No Compromise No Surrender active. And some of the stuff in this video is a bit embellished for entertainment value, but for the most part, it's just stuff you can do in the game. So, no need to prolong this any further. Let's begin. After World War I, basically every country in Europe was left completely devastated. But across the Atlantic, the United States was doing better than ever. Being an entire ocean away from all the destruction had solidified America's position as the richest country in the entire world. The US was so rich that it could finance the reconstruction of Europe. Eventually, life in Europe too was starting to get better again. Everything was going great. Until it wasn't. The market crashed hard. The whole world suffered from the Great Depression. The Italians and Germans resorted to fascism. And communists in the Soviet Union were just happy that people in the West were suffering almost as much as them. The new order built after the Great War was crumbling before everyone's eyes. But we, here in America, don't really care because we are isolationist, so we'll focus on our own problems. After the First War, no one wants to get involved in foreign squabbles again, especially while our economy is still in a very poor state. We do have the largest industrial base in the world, but most of our factories go to civilian production. As we all know, the worse the economic conditions, the more products go to ordinary people. Or something like that. But luckily, our president, FDR, is here to save us with his New Deal policies. Slowly but surely, we can climb our way out of this recession. At the same time, we lock in our isolationism with the Neutrality Act. The Europeans can sort out their own problems, and we will get even more factories in the future. But the US is a democracy, and we can't just do whatever we want without first getting approval from the Congress. And we as a people pride ourselves on our representatives having literally no political loyalty at all. The support of a representative can be gained or lost on the slightest whim. One guy made a speech about how great the president is. 24 congressmen switch parties. A senator retired. 7 others decide that they now hate the administration. This rampant lack of backbone can also be used to our advantage by gathering support to our side with some completely legal persuasion tactics. But the economic depression was so brutal that we barely have any political capital either, so we must be really strategic with our lobbying efforts, lest we want to miss out on a few days' progress on our focus tree. Just 2 years later, we have fully recovered from the depression, and our people are happy with a lot fewer toasters now. Our industrial might is completely unrivaled, but it's not all sunshine and rainbows. A war in Asia has started between Japan and the Chinese, and in Europe, Germany is flexing its muscles by annexing territories from their neighbors, and the spineless France and Britain are letting it all happen. Shameful. But we're also not gonna be doing anything about it. But it wouldn't be a bad idea to start building up our military some more. You never know when trouble might come knocking. Speak softly and carry a big stick, as the president's uncle-in-law used to say. And, hey, Japan just attacked one of our boats. They will pay for that. And they did pay. That's good. I almost thought we had to go to war. Oh, and that didn't take long. Europe is back at war. But still, it doesn't concern us. Except our former allies are selling pretty hard. Okay. France capitulated in a month. Maybe we should help the Brits out a bit. We'll pass the Lend-Lease Act and give them some free stuff. We can be the arsenal of democracy without getting directly involved in the war. I don't know how long the UK is going to last. Germany controls basically all of Europe at this point. And... oh, okay. So that was their plan all along. Wait until Germany starts a war with another great power. The Soviets too are kinda getting their asses kicked by Germany, and it's possible that they could fall too. I don't really know about this communism stuff, but the enemy of an enemy. Here, have some free stuff. What? Japan attacked us. I could never have expected that. Okay, we're officially at war, and we immediately join the Allies. Prepare to face what's coming for you, Japan. In like 2 to 3 years, because we're going to take out Germany first. How are our allies still struggling in Africa? One naval invasion is enough to secure the entire continent for us. Next, we'll need a foothold in Europe. Sicily is a good starting point. Italy should be a much easier target than Germany, and they switched sides already. Do we really want these guys on our side? Let's quickly see how Japan's faring in Asia and... oh, they're pretty good at this naval invasion stuff. Perhaps we should actually try to fight their navy. Let's have one big fight in the middle of the Pacific over the control of the entire ocean. And that's basically their entire navy destroyed. I mean, what did you expect? We do have the largest navy in the world. Okay, let's leave Japan and get back to Germany. So, we're doing another naval invasion in the north, for free Europe. There you go, France, here's your country back. At this point, it's basically just a race to Berlin against the Soviets. Well, we did already sign off on a plan for the future of Europe, so it doesn't really matter who gets there first. Damn, the Soviets beat us, but it doesn't matter. And there you go, peace in Europe. Sucks that we almost finished building one of our new superweapons, but couldn't test it on Germany. But hey, at least Japan's still in the game. Our island hopping campaign has got us right at their front door, but a full naval invasion of the home islands would be very costly, so we'll just nuke them. But wait, what's that? Our spies are telling us that Japan is already preparing to surrender. Just like that. Quick, test the nukes now. Come on, just send them in. And Japan surrenders. The war is over. In the following days, the world map was completely redrawn. China was liberated and Japan was occupied by America. Germany was split into 4 and Italy kinda got off scot-free. Peace rests upon the world once again. But what did it all cost? Us? Not much. We just kinda rolled in with thousands of tanks and planes and finished the war in about 3 years. But that's what you can do when you're the United States. But now, it looks like we have a new enemy. The Soviets took over Eastern Europe and they're acting increasingly more hostile towards us. But that doesn't go anymore. The times of isolationism are over. We take over the Allies and rebrand it to NATO. Our new mission is to stop the expansion of the USSR and contain the spread of communism by any means necessary. Even with nukes? Nah, those are just the last resort. And come on, it's not like anyone else is ever going to figure out how to make them. So, building up the already strongest country in the world for 5 years in total peace makes you basically unstoppable. But come on, who has the time to wait for that long? No one. Luckily, the US has the option to scrap the Neutrality Act and instead go for limited intervention. That will be our new path forward. There is also an election in 1936 between the incumbent FDR and the Republican Alf Landon. In our timeline, this election was pretty lopsided to say the least, but here we have a pretty accurate representation of how elections actually work. Some guy in the shadows just chooses who wins, so we can make Landon the new president. Apparently he was the more isolationist of the two, but whatever. I want to see what he has to offer. Our new president comes with all his economic legislation already prepared. Because of this, we can immediately complete his 5-step recovery plan without waiting for 7 months between each new law. As a result, we can shake off the recession about 6 months faster than with the New Deal. Not bad. But we did miss out on some progress on our focus tree because we had to wait for 11 months for the election. So overall, the New Deal is still probably the better option. Now we can start realigning to limited interventionism. Unfortunately, this shift means we miss out on the huge industrial buffs of the Neutrality Act, but it's not like we really need those factories. Now we can choose whether we want to involve ourselves in Asian or European affairs, and that decision is made for us by Japan, as their attack on our ship gives us a free war goal on them. This means that focusing on Asia doesn't really give us anything, so we'll choose to focus on Europe. We'll also hold on declaring war on Japan until our navy is fully ready to take them on. In 1939, Germany and the Soviet Union signed the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, and this will be our pretext for war. We start preparing for intervention and start asking Congress for a permission to declare war. This will take quite a while, so in the meantime, we can start the first stage of our war on Japan. The plan is really straightforward. We build a ton of radar stations, locate the Japanese Navy, and destroy it. Simple as that. In early 1940, we finally joined the war in Europe, and our troops arrive in France just before Germany blitzes through the Benelux. Our reinforcements are enough to stop the German advance, and France survives. Now we transfer the bulk of our navy from the Pacific to Europe. Our plan in Europe is also very simple. First, we move our navy to the North Sea and destroy the German navy. Then we move to the Mediterranean and sink the Italian navy. With total naval supremacy, we can start preparing our counter-offensives. Italy is clearly the weaker one of the Axis powers, so we should focus on them first. We launch naval invasions to Sardinia and then to Genoa, right behind the Italian front line. We quickly surround the Axis troops in the Alps and destroy them all. Now we move on to take the rest of Italy. With one more naval invasion in the south, the country eventually ousts a fascist from power and then joins our side. One down, two remain. We stage a landing in the lowlands behind the German troops and quickly get the front moving again. Unfortunately, the Germans are a lot better than Italy at this military stuff, so they manage to avoid getting encircled, but they still get pushed back pretty hard. We nearly get to Berlin right away, but the German defense solidifies and our advance slows down. But no need to worry, we'll open a new front in the east by launching an invasion into Poland. The Axis is pretty weak against this naval invasion behind troops tactic. Anyways, just before the summer of 1941, Germany capitulates. The 2-year war is over, with 1 million Allied casualties and 4 million Axis casualties. As all the victorious powers are pretty much on the same page, we decide to skip the occupation zones and just install a new democratic government in Germany and all the other Axis countries. The borders of Europe were pretty much returned back to normal. Now only Japan remains. Looks like 3 simultaneous landings into their home islands is enough to completely overrun their defenses. And there, China is once again free, and Japan is our democratic ally. And just like that, fascism has been eradicated from the face of the earth. There is, however, one elephant in the room. The Soviets basically built the German war machine from the ground up, and they too have been strong-arming their neighbors to give them land. And the whole Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact is where our involvement in Europe began. Germany, who is now our ally, tells us about their plans they had to invade the Soviet Union. That's not a bad idea. In early 1942, we begin the final campaign, invasion of the Soviet Union. And the Soviets have no chance. It's all of Europe, North America and half of Asia against one country. We have conquered like half of the country, but the Soviets refuse to surrender. Well, luckily, we have a pretty good persuasion tactic, as we have developed our first nuke in lightning speed. We'll just drop it wherever their new capital is, and I'm sure that will change their mind. There we go. In just 4 years, America brought democracy to everyone in Europe and Asia at the same time, all the while we expanded our territories all around. This is what happens when we start to get involved. Democracy is the new way of the world, one which guarantees peace for all peoples. Although there are still a few countries that don't follow our ways. We could do a few more invasions, for democracy. Once you start getting involved in everything, it's hard to stop. Do you know what's the best way to get out of an economic depression? Well, according to Hoi 4, it's abandoning the free market entirely and going full-blown communist. If we add in some socialist focuses to our economic recovery, we can get out of the recession super fast. However, if we do this, some people will get really angry and they'll demand us to stop immediately. But no matter how much they riot, we won't budge. As the anti-communists start sabotaging our industry and gathering weapons, it seems like another civil war is unavoidable. We also prepare by trading tons of cheap divisions. I have a slight hunch which states will side with the anti-communists, so let's station our troops in the south. And in February of 1938, 11 states seceded from the Union to form the Confederacy of American States. How original, guys. We will put an end to this treachery at once. And apparently 6 other states in the north also went and formed the Unaligned States of America and slapped the crown on their flag. Okay. But they promised to return to the Union right after the fighting is over. Cowards, but whatever. The outbreak of another civil war is clearly a colossal failure by FDR's administration. It's high time that he makes way for the new most popular faction in American politics, the Communist Party USA. Earl Browder becomes the new president, and with emergency powers, he reshapes the entire political system into a democratic socialist model. The revolution has come to America. Now all we need to do is crush the traitors. And the Second Civil War is over. It will take years until we can readmit all the states back to the Union, but we have no time to spare. The revolution has only just begun. The communists in China are under attack. We should help them out. We'll join the Soviet faction and station our navy and troops in Vladivostok. Then we declare war on Japan, destroy their navy, and invade their home islands. In about a month, their under-defended cities are all captured, and Japan falls. Now we install a communist puppet government and give as much of China to the communists as we can. On the other side of the world, Germany has just started a war with France and Britain. Their imperialism in Africa and Asia should disgust any good communist. And technically, the Germans are kinda our allies by proxy, so we'll join the fight against the allies. Securing our northern border is the most urgent matter, so we quickly take over Canada. Then we liberate the Allied colonies in Malay and Indonesia, so we can starve the Brits of their resources. Now we can prepare an island-hopping campaign from Canada to Greenland to Iceland and then to Britain. Their home islands are a lot more thoroughly defended, but with the help of a German invasion in the south, the United Kingdom is no more. In under a year, the anti-imperialist war has been won, and liberalism is an ideology of the past. The world is now split in two. The Axis countries got hold on all of Africa, while the Asian territories of the Allies were turned into socialist paradises. It is rather obvious that our worldview is not compatible with the Axis, and Germany will sooner or later invade the USSR. Naturally, we should side with the Soviets, but our president just can't get along with their premier. They don't see eye to eye on much of anything, and the world doesn't seem to be big enough for both of them. So when the Germans launch an invasion to the USSR in 1941, we leave the Soviets to fend for themselves, while we begin a campaign to liberate the workers of South America. With the full might of the Axis on the Eastern Front, the Soviets can't seem to hold on for much longer. As the country nears total collapse, a faction of their government comes to us with an offer. They tell us that the whole country will submit to Washington's control if we just join the war. An offer like that you can't refuse. No need to worry, Europe, the Americans are here. The red wave washes over the entire continent, and not long after, the entire world. Total worker liberation has been achieved. Never before has the world been so unified under one cause. The majority of the new governments of the world answer straight to us. I mean, come on, we can't just let them be fully independent. We know what's the best for them. So, this is the utopia. I guess we'll just have to wait and see if this communism thing really works. And if it doesn't, I guess we'll just try something different. I don't know. Douglas MacArthur was already one of the most influential men in America when he was sent to command American troops in the Philippines, but not many knew how far his ambitions truly reached. Back home, tensions are escalating quickly. The newly elected President Landon has been cozying up to the fascist silver shirts, and many citizens view this as completely unacceptable. The left and the right are clashing almost daily, and it seems to be only a matter of time before the military has to get involved. It all comes to a head in December 1938, when multiple cities in the northeast rebel and take over entire states. And not long after, the rebellion spreads to the west coast, and now half of the states have split off to the constitutional states of America. MacArthur was immediately recalled from the Philippines to put an end to the rebellion. He takes charge of the army in the northeast, and with a chain of brilliant victories, he retakes the region from the rebels. His success makes him very popular among the loyalists, much more popular than the president who had let all this chaos unfold. MacArthur decides to take his chance, and he successfully ousts the president in a coup. He reorganizes the government into a military junta and essentially becomes the dictator of America. The new head of state wastes no time putting an end to the rebellion in the West. After a few months, the Civil War comes to an end, but MacArthur intends to stay. He immediately solidifies his rule by expanding his war powers. The decadent republic was now truly dead. MacArthur is in charge, and he intends to make America greater than ever before. In his view, not only the Americas, but all of the Pacific too belongs to the American sphere of influence. He starts by negotiating for the transfer of the Canadian corridor, which would connect Alaska to the mainland. Canada begrudgingly accepts, as most of their armed forces are fighting Germany in Europe. Next, MacArthur moves to subjugate Mexico, and seeing as no one would come to their aid, the Mexican president agrees to become an American puppet. Then MacArthur sends similar demands to all the other North American countries, and one by one, either peacefully or by force, every one of them falls under American control. The next step is securing the Pacific. Most of it is under British control, and MacArthur hopes to make them relinquish their holdings without a single drop of blood. He travels to London and lays harsh demands on the Prime Minister. If they don't accept, America would aim the full force of their military might towards the British Isles, who were already in a precarious situation with the Germans. Seeing no other option, the British agree to his demands. Canada, New Zealand, Australia, Malaya, Hong Kong, and for some reason even Gibraltar are transferred to American control. The great diplomat had forced even Winston Churchill to resort to appeasement. Then MacArthur made similar demands to a few other countries until he gained control of Indonesia, Siam, and all of Indochina too. America now controls almost all of the Pacific. And then, all of a sudden, our control of the region would be challenged. Now was MacArthur's chance to show what he's made of. In under 2 months, he destroys the Japanese navy, invades their home islands, and forces them to surrender. The great general is unstoppable. MacArthur flew to Japan to personally hidemog the emperor and set up the new puppet government. Right there, he had an idea. If he could personally bring down centuries-old empires just like that, what does that make him? He travels back home, where he announces that he would take the mantle of the Caesar of the free American Empire. Half of the globe is no longer enough for him. The emperor wouldn't rest until America was the uncontested global hegemon. Not long after, MacArthur was already leading the invasion of the United Kingdom. just like the previous island empire, they wouldn't last long. Then he planned 3 simultaneous campaigns, one to take on all of South America at once, one to capture the Axis-controlled Africa, and one to bring down the fascist states of Europe. While the African campaign was highly successful, the other 2 weren't the blowout victories MacArthur had hoped. Fighting in South America was a total slog, and in Europe, Germany was a much more ferocious opponent than anyone MacArthur had faced before. Even with the help of the Soviets, taming Germany would take years. Now, only one target remains: the wretched communists of the Soviet Union. The Emperor doesn't hate anything more than them. We gather an army 6 million strong along the border of the USSR and start our final campaign. MacArthur heads straight for Moscow. Nothing can stop him. At this point, MacArthur has grown a bit complacent. He can't bother upgrading his equipment or divisions. He only builds and trains more of what he found to be effective years ago. But it doesn't matter. Soon he'd be racing down the capital of his last enemy. Just before winter, MacArthur takes Moscow. He has won. But then he realizes something. In his tunnel vision, he didn't notice that nearly his whole army had been encircled. He tried to break his forces out, but the cold winter conditions made it impossible. The Red Army was more advanced by this point. America suffered nearly 5 million casualties in this single disaster. And things would only get worse, as MacArthur had neglected to notice that his puppets were quietly building progress towards independence, and suddenly almost all of his subjects break free and join the war against him. MacArthur quickly travels back home with his remaining forces, but there he'd be met with a front in the south, which had already advanced to American core territory. The South American campaign had failed completely. With enemies on every side and basically the whole world against him, the great general wasn't great enough to get out of this one. The free American empire was not to survive. The victorious powers wanted a return to some form of balance of power. A lot was changed, but a lot stayed the same. The old democracy was installed in America, and MacArthur was exiled. He was now nothing more than the Emperor of Hawaii. But then he realized something. No one in the coalition had puppeted his regime. MacArthur's empire was still fully sovereign. I guess they just forgot. And the new American Republic hasn't had time to train a single division yet. So what if we just go back with a few cavalry divisions and take over the whole country? The free American Empire is back. The whole world is coming for us, but MacArthur has one more ace up his sleeve. The nuclear research facility he built in Waterloo, Iowa, is only 100 days away from finishing the world's first nuclear bomb. If he could hold out the coalition from the facility for long enough, he could threaten them with the nuke until he could build more and take over the whole world. Now it's all or nothing. It's just 10 days until the nuke is ready and the coalition is just outside the city. The most important battle in history is about to commence. The Battle of Waterloo, Iowa. Just 1 day away, MacArthur lost the facility. It's over. In the end, the 100 days didn't change anything other than the location of MacArthur's exile. He was transferred from Hawaii to Attu Island, and this time it was made sure that Japan of all countries had control of the island. So this is it. MacArthur was to stay here with the 20 other inhabitants of this cold, barren island. There was nothing he could do other than wait for it all to be over. By the way, what happened to the nuke? It's crazy how much the world can change in just a few years. Not only did America have another civil war where the fascists took over, just a few years earlier, Germany had a revolution which led to them reinstating the Kaiser. Well, I guess they're at least slightly better than the old regime. Now that the Civil War is behind us, we want to move on from MacArthur's dictatorship towards something new. Or I guess you could say, old. Out of the many candidates for the new leader, 3 of them rose to the top. But the most unlikely of them, the German-born architect Adam Hilt, won over the rest and became the leader of America. But Hilt was a Southern man. Southern German to be precise. Damn, what is going on in Europe? So Hilt has strong sympathies towards the South. That is why he decides to transform the country to the Confederate States of America. Apparently he really liked the new flag and the grey color. No other reason. Hilt is also a big fan of the idea one people, one state. He wants to unite all the English speakers under a single flag. Luckily, the Brits had basically already done this with their empire, so all we have to do is to take over them. It's a good thing that they are already right in the middle of a 3-way war with the communists and Central Powers, so they aren't that hard to take over. The British Empire is now the American Empire. I mean, the Confederate Empire. But as much as Hilt loves nationalism, he also despises communism. So we'll join the German Empire in the fight against the Comintern. With a few years of fighting, both Paris and Moscow fall. Rather surprisingly, Hilt didn't demand anything in the peace negotiations, instead letting Germany take literally everything. What could have compelled him to do that, I don't know. The world is looking pretty grey now. 2 superpowers now control the world, but despite what one might expect, they get along surprisingly well. Hilt told the German Kaiser that even if he didn't really like the monarchy, he'd be willing to work with them as long as they promised to reject all forms of liberalism and communism. So at least for now, it looks like that the 2 superpowers can coexist in peace. Then Hilt got bored and annexed the whole world. The end. Like and subscribe and comment which country you would like to see next. See ya!